Hi, hello again. Let me see what I can do here. Let's see if that works. Well, hello. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being back for another Monday Skeleton Club. I'm feeling a bit frazzled. I've just come back from being away with Brendan racing wagons at the Ipswich show, and so I feel like I've just arrived again from another world. But it's really lovely to be back here with all the moths that have come out to play tonight. If you could just pop a hello in the comments so I know that I've got some people there before I actually start going on with anything. We're looking at this thoracic spine behind me tonight. We'll be having a little play with that. She is a beautiful little thing back there. So I'm really looking forward to getting into it. I just wanted to let you all know that we do have our third prize question. For this week, our question is, was this horse, shush moss, was this horse started under saddle? So, having seen everything that we've seen so far and then everything that we're going to see tonight, do you believe that this horse was actually started under saddle when she was put to sleep? So that's question number 3. Again, collect the answers to those questions. There will be another 3. We're already halfway through. Can you believe it? There will be another 3 questions. Whoever answers all 6 questions the most correctly will win the merch prize pack, which I keep forgetting to advertise. So I will get around to that. I promise. It's really cool. It's really nice stuff. So definitely keep a tally of all of your answers. The first question that we asked related to the horse's age. The second question related to left or right balance, as in favouring their left side or right side. And then the third question, do you believe this horse was started under saddle when it was put to sleep? So, let's get into it. Once again, I have to try and work out how to turn the camera around. There we go. Okay, let's get over here to our pony. I'll pop you into your little holder there so that I have both hands. Welcome to this amazing little thoracic spine. While I get myself all organised. So, we have... This is going to be a tough one for me to film because obviously it is a very long part of the horse's body. 18 different vertebrae all lined up together here. So you'll just have to bear with me as I move us down the line. So to orient you, this is our first thoracic vertebrae. So the horse's head would be off in this direction, even though the head is right there. And then the tail is off in this direction here. So after this thoracic spine, then we have the lumbar spine and then the pelvis, sacrum and tail. So what I want to have a look at here, first of all, is just the amazing shape that is created by these bones. Now, obviously, I am holding these all up and holding them together as best I can. And of course, just before I started filming, I had to fiddle with things, and so they all fell about. But you would have seen from this week's photographs how beautifully they sit together. And so these upright pieces of the bone here, this dorsal spine, creates this astonishing shape, which we get to see externally on our horses, where they come up quite high and then they drop down gradually, not like that. You don't drop down, stay there. Thank you very much. They drop down and then flatten out to become the place where we actually sit. So when you're looking at your horse and the geography of your horse's back and the shape of their withers, that's a great part of that is determined by the height, the length of these, the width of these dorsal spines, and the width and the size of the body of the vertebrae themselves, which I think is just incredibly cool. Now, You can also see that these dorsal spines, these upright pieces, are angled backwards. Remember, her head is this way, bum is that way. So at the beginning here, we have them angled a little bit backwards. And as we come down to the base of the wither, so down through here, I was just counting for my 14th vertebrae, which is this guy here. This is actually the center of balance of the horse, technically speaking, if you read all the textbooks. And this is supposed to be, you know, kind of where the majority of the balance of the horse stands over, and also where the dorsal spines start to direct themselves, angle themselves in the opposite direction. So you can see with her though, this one, the dorsal spine is quite upright here. It looks angled forward because of this pointy bit. Let me move you in. There we go. That's a bit better. Well done. You can see this pointed bit at the top here makes it appear to be angled forward, but the body of the dorsal spine here, that's very upright still. And then we start to get more of an angulation on those spines through here, especially as we come back to these last few vertebrae in there. Now, while we're zoomed in this close, let me drop you down a little lower, and we can also have a look at these phenomenal open growth plates that we have on this horse. So this is our 18th thoracic vertebrae. And you can see here that not only do we have the piece on the front of the vertebrae and the back very loose, I can give that a little wiggle like that. It's very open, but also on the bottom. Right, so this is the ventral crest. So this is the most underside piece of this vertebrae. Well, that's very large. Let me zoom out there. There we go. But this is all very open. So there was still a lot of growth happening in all of these spaces for this little horse. This front piece is not as loose. I couldn't pull that off if I tried, even if I wanted to. But the back piece is very loose. It's only held in place because of this joint through here. Again, so we have, if you'll remember back to last week's video where we were looking at the articulating surfaces where the vertebrae actually join themselves together, these ones are oriented a little bit differently. So they're very upright, very cupped. Hi, Emma. And they actually hold each other in place to prevent too much rotation between the vertebrae from happening. Right, so you can see there's not a lot of rotation that will happen. There's lateral bend that can happen between these two. Again, not a whole lot, but we're really cracking down on how much rotation is available by way of these articular surfaces here and how they interlock, which is super cool. And so over here, while we're still talking about growth and development, you'll see I have a little collection of these beautiful little growth plates that have disconnected themselves in processing. So they were really softly connected to the rest of the vertebrae. These would have still been incredible points of growth. See these words, they're just not coming today because of that brain deadness from being away for the weekend. I've just lost my ability to speak and I deeply apologize, but we're going to press on. What's cool about this one is this little bit up the top here. He looks a little bit like a bear's face. This is where our rib articulates on here. But this bit up the top, that's unusual. It's quite irregular. Unfortunately, at this point, I haven't been able to place which vertebrae this has come off. I'm going to try and find it. But as you can see, there's a lot to choose from. Not only these, but I have some others propping up these vertebrae back here. So it's a little bit tough to try and line them all up. And I just haven't had the opportunity to find where he really belongs. But it will be interesting to see how that relates to the rest of that vertebrae and where it sits within the body. Because bony changes like this, they can give us a clue, again, as to what that horse was doing with their body, where they wanted to hold their balance, where they needed to calcify some things in order to create a little bit more balance or a little bit more stability. So that's a really cool thing. And I will keep you updated once I've found who he belongs to, we can have a closer look. I might even try and get that into our next live video as well. So from there, looking at bony changes, oh, no, that's as far forward as the tripod can go. Don't be silly. Let me just adjust you. Oh, and I want to have a look at these here. You can see that. I'll zoom in so you can have a good look, and then we can come back out again. This bony lump through here, and then this one here, through here. Now these are irregular in terms of their development. More often than not, what we will see is for these dorsal spines, these upright bits, to be quite straight and quite uniform in how they grow, because there is, in between these dorsal spines, in between all of them, you have a ligament that connects them to each other, which creates stability and movement at the same time, to allow the back to have elasticity and movement and all those amazing things that we want. So to see this bony growth off the front of these vertebrae is fascinating to me. Now I'll zoom back out and hopefully you will be able to see them all. It starts from 18, 19, 16, 15, 14, 15, 12. So the 12th vertebrae, 11, 10, 9, 8, and 7. Okay, so that's all within, I suppose, the wither, the back of the wither down into the base of the wither. The cool thing about these, where they're placed in terms of soft tissue, that's where you're looking at, moth right in my mouth, sorry. Oh, you're looking at a couple of different things that this could potentially be in terms of what has calcified. The why, unfortunately, there's all we can do is guess on that. And if you have any ideas as to why these may have calcified, I would love to hear it, because I think the more brains that we have throwing at this kind of thing, the better. Everybody's looking at this through a different lens, so I'd really love to hear what you think about why these may have calcified. But what you're looking at there is potentially your multifidus, which is you have individual muscles connecting these vertebrae all to each other. I'm less inclined to think that multifidus was involved in this, because they gradually get higher, and multifidus doesn't do that. It sits quite uniform across the spines, even as you come into the front of the horse's thoracic spine. What we do have here, though, is the overlap of your long back muscle, so your longissimus, and your spinalis, where they overlap through here. This is also just behind that scapula, behind your shoulder blade, where you're looking at horses who are quite underdeveloped in that muscle, in that appearance of having top line. It's generally through this area where these dorsal spines are involved. So I wonder if that has something to do with it. This was a horse who, was muscled, but not well muscled, just like any other horse in the paddock. Not an overly obese horse, not an underweight horse, just a horse in paddock condition. But knowing that the long back muscle and the spinalis could both be involved in this, one or the other, begs the question as to how the horse wanted to, or was able to, mobilize through their lower neck, through here, into the balance of their head, the balance of all the things in their body. Would the tree of a saddle cause something like this over time? I mean, maybe not cause it outright, but possibly be a contributing factor. I mean, it is in that region, so we can't discount it, that's for sure. What I think is fascinating, to look beyond that bony growth through there, when we're looking at, just thinking whether I need to have this all together anymore, if I can dismantle it. I think I can dismantle her. But when we're looking at, this kind of saddle area, what you can see here is that we do have one instance, at least, of kissing spine where the two dorsal spines are overlapping on each other through here. Let me just get those out for you so you can have a closer look. Now, if I hold them at good spacing, not collapsed in on each other, you do have space between those dorsal spines. However, we do have remodeling on the dorsal spine here, so you can see how it's quite flat through there, and it has changed its shape. So that tells us that it has been in contact at some point with this dorsal spine through here as well. So there has been overlap or impingement of those spines in on each other. That doesn't mean that the horse was always going to have to hold itself there. Maybe it touched it, touched and opened. Hard to say, but it does have the ability to create space. It's just that there are artifacts in the bone that say that they were indeed able to touch on each other and did in fact touch on each other when the horse was alive, because the bone has remodeled. That does translate also, potentially we have another smaller instance of kissing spine here, right at the top of these spines. Again, they don't have to be that close, but there is some bony change that suggests that they would have been, and this is the start of that remodeling on the front of the dorsal spines. So it's possible that all of these things actually played in together. Let me just bring that back out to show you. So we have our kissing spine here, a little bit through here. I can't really, I can't force these two to touch on each other, nor here or here, anywhere further forward. So I would say that this would be, kind of technically clear for impinging dorsal spines. So no kissing spine here, but this is where the bony change starts to happen here. And again, on that same level, which I find really fascinating, super cool. So any suggestions that you might have or you might think of through the week as to why this may have happened or how this may have occurred. I mean, there's all manner of injuries and twists and all sorts of things that could have happened, but I would love to hear your take on it. We can also have a look at these spines. I'm trying to orient them correctly. Oh, come. There we go. Oh. So what I'm doing here is I'm using these articular surfaces to try and establish how the horse wanted to hold its vertebrae. We can tell that by the wear and tear on those articular surfaces. And what we're seeing here is not, it's not terrible straightness. It's not bad, but it does seem like this vertebrae that's right on the top wants to be a little off center, perhaps. Very interesting. These are all the different ways in which you can actually have a look at these spines to give us more information, more idea about how the horse wanted to use their own body. Now, what are some of the other cool things that I had here in store for you? Well, I'm just going to dismantle all of that. So we have here, can I zoom out? We have here our C7 from last week and our T1. So this is our first thoracic. This is the end of our neck and the beginning of our back. Now these are the lowest points in the horse's spine. So we have our spinal cord opening through there. So you remember that was a little bit of a funky shape from last week. A little bit dropped on one side. So having a look at our T1, does that help us? No, that hinders us. Having a look through there, it actually doesn't look, it doesn't look super balanced left to right, but it's not too shabby either. Still a little bit dropped through here, I reckon. Interesting. It's not horribly disfigured. It's not madly squished. It's just a little bit off center. And when you, I keep trying to orient them whilst looking through the camera, and that's just not working for me. I need to use my real eyes. There we are. So when we line them up together, you still have this beautiful opening through here, but you can see that misalignment. So we're just not getting optimal space there for the spinal cord. which is interesting. It would be interesting to know how that would impact this horse when she was alive. While we've got these two together, if you have a look here, you can see these. Again, you've got some more articulating surfaces, and that is actually where our rib comes into place. So this is a first rib. Now, the ribs themselves don't just sit off of one vertebrae. They actually live in between the two. So you can see here we have this portion of the rib that sits down in here. Now, of course, I haven't got that growth plate on the back of there, so this is not going to sit perfectly. So you're going to have to trust me because I still haven't managed to grow 3 more arms. But this is how that rib would sit in there. If I take this one away, you'll be able to see better. Rib sits in here. Yeah. And so again, this helps to limit the lateral movement, lateral bend, also rotation. It just helps to stabilize that thoracic vertebrae a little bit more to maintain the integrity of the spinal cord by putting the ribs in between the vertebrae. So here is where one rib would articulate, and here, here, here. It just stops too much wild movement to happen between these bones. So then what we have off the bottom of this rib will be this guy. Not just him, okay? There's multiple pieces. I only have 4 of them with me here today, but this is our sternum. So these individual pieces are called, let me put that out of the way, these are called sternobrae. They interface with each other, so they actually sit end on end. This is a perfect example of 2 that have fused together. So hopefully you will be able to see this little line through here. So you've got those little bobbles through there. That line should continue through to there because this is one sternobrae, so one piece of sternum, and this is your second piece of sternum. These 2 have fused together. They shouldn't have, but they did. And in doing so, they actually show us, now this is a little bit of degeneration from when the skeleton was preserved, but it doesn't actually sit straight. They don't sit straight on each other. Now, we were able to see externally when this horse was put to sleep that the sternum was not straight. It was a little bit crooked, which is something that we will look at when we look at the the photos of the horse when it was actually alive. You'll be able to hopefully see that the sternum was not straight in the live horse. And so back to my point about these guys. So all of these different segments make up the sternum, and the sternum sits right at the front or in between the horse's legs. Helps the ribs and the thoracic spine to create this beautiful cage around the heart and the lungs. Now, let me see if I can make this happen. Now, this piece of sternum that I am using does not actually live here in the horse's body. It's a placeholder for us so that I can demonstrate to you the point I'm trying to make. All right, so we have here our first thoracic vertebrae. We have our rib, and then we have our sternum underneath here. We would have another rib curling around this side to sit onto there as well, and that creates our thoracic inlet. All right, so that's where your esophagus and your trachea and a whole bunch of nerves and amazing muscles enter from the neck into the rib cage, and of course exit out as well. It's not a particularly large space, and it's somewhere that we really need to be careful of because this is right on the inside of the horse's shoulders. And so it's really important that the horse is strong and balanced around this area to be able to carry, your heart sits kind of just here and is protected by these first ribs, these first 8 ribs, by the sternum and by those first thoracic vertebrae as well. So cool. It's really cool to look at when you put them all together. Now, the ribs aren't just bluntly attached onto the sternum like that, like I just shoved it in there, but the rib actually articulates in between those 2 sternum pieces, attaches with another piece of cartilage, and sticks on there. And so we have a rib, which is the last rib. See, ribs are not my favorite because they're so bulky and they just get in the way. So I'm just going to show you 2 just so that you get the general idea. So if we come down to the other end of the horse's back here, down to its 18th vertebrae. So we have our 18th rib here, which sticks on there. And again, you can see that it lives in between the 2 vertebrae. 1, 2, and then the rib in here as well. So this is where it's really important, again, in growth and development, with rib movement and rib mobility, rib health as well, diaphragmatic health, because obviously the ribs work as part of the horse's breathing apparatus. If you have compromise to the ribs and the ribs aren't moving, maybe that's going to have an influence on how your horse is growing and developing, because remember, these growth plates actually have the rib articulation involved as well, which is a cool thing to keep in mind. So I'm just having a little look over my list of things to speak to you about, and I think that's about it. I mean, if there's anything that you guys have seen here tonight that I haven't gone over and you'd like me to touch on them, please do pop it into the comments and let me know. I'm going to be getting back to you about this guy. As always, if you are interested in this stuff and you'd like to dive deeper into it, you can, and I would deeply encourage you to access my online course. I have the link linked to this somehow. I hope somebody's found. Well, I'm sure some of you have definitely found the link, because I've had people book into the online course. So I'm doing something right. If you want to pop onto there, you will have a deep dive into this stuff with a person who's actually had sleep, unlike me today, and is speaking with some level of eloquence. You'll be looking at 13 different horses, comparing and contrasting them. I'm just looking at this sternobrae as I'm talking, and the imbalance in this is wild. It's really narrow here, really fat through there, a little bit like this connection here. It's just all a little bit askew. But as far as thoracic spines go, in terms of, looking at kissing spine and stuff, there aren't a huge amount of instances of it here in this spine. Through this late thoracic stuff, it's not so bad through here either. And as I said, with this one instance that we have here, if we position that horse into, into a healthier position, we do see that there is actually space available in there. So, a really, really lovely little spine, fascinating for all of the growing that it still had to do, when you look at things like this. Amazing. Don't forget, this week's prize draw question is, was this horse started under saddle? Do you believe he was started under saddle, having seen what we've seen? And I would love to know what you think about these bony changes through here. I think that's about it from me for this week. I want to let you know that next Monday, we will not be having Monday Skeleton Club. I'm very, very sorry. I have a dissection happening on that Monday, and I will have to be giving my time to that. So our next Monday Skeleton Club will be Monday, the 1st of June. So in 2 weeks' time. And that will be the lumbar spine, the pelvis, and the sacrum. I'm really looking forward to it. Less bones to actually have to play with. That'll be lovely. I will pop those photos up for you to have a look at. In the meantime, if you have any questions or any comments about any of the horse that we've looked at, even this beautiful skull that's still sitting up here keeping me company, please do either pop it into the comments or send me a message, something like that. If you're watching this on the replay, please let me know, because apparently Facebook likes to know all of that sort of stuff, helps me get a bit more reach. Otherwise, thank you so much for being here. It's been a lot more fun than I was giving myself credit for. And I will see you around.